Hey friends, Ash here with Gents, coming at you guys today with a fragrance review of this fragrance, Versace Eros Flame. Now this is kind of an updated review, or even a re-review if you want to call it that, because I have done a video on this one in the past. But if you've seen that video, I say Rosemary in that video a lot. If you take a shot every time I say Rosemary in the original review for Versace Eros Flame, you will die. I don't care how much alcohol tolerance you have, you will die. And we don't want that on this channel. No deaths due to too much alcohol imbibing, due to too much of the use of the word rosemary. But today, we're gonna be checking this one out again. So I'm gonna break this fragrance down for you guys, let you know how my opinion has changed since the original review, let you guys know whether I think this is something you should check out or not. So let's jump into this and re-review Versace Eros Flame. One thing I'm a little bit disappointed with is the lack of the use of flame by other brands. I'm pretty sure that when I first reviewed this one, there were a couple other fragrances that had come out around the same time using flame as a flanker name, and we've not really seen that since. I thought maybe it'd be a little bit of a trend, but no. Let's go ahead and check out this presentation really quickly, and then we'll jump into the fragrance. Here we've got the front of the box. You can see there the name of the house, name of the fragrance, size and concentration down here. It says Versace on the top of the box. Nothing doing on the sides. On the back you've got your ingredient information, and then on the bottom you will find your batch code and barcode. And here is the bottle for Versace Eros Flame. Same bottle style as the original Eros, only this one is red, and the cap is gold all the way around instead of having that kind of bluish coloration. You've got the Medusa on top of the cap, and then also on the inside of the cap, I'm not sure if you can make that out or not, but there's a little Medusa in there as well. Cap does click into place. You have this little design on the back of the bottle, and on the bottom you'll find your sticker with your batch code. And I'll go ahead and waste a spray for you guys here. Powerful atomizer, sprays out really far. Not a huge surprise, but Versace Eros Flame does remind me of Versace Eros as soon as I spray it on. But you would expect that because this is a flanker to the original Eros, so if it smelled absolutely nothing like the original, you might be a little bit confused. So this one is going to remind you of Eros off the top, but this one has a slight green tinge that the original Eros does not. It's got a citrus combo of lemon and orange. In the opening, orange is going to be the most dominant of the citrus notes, so that's going to be the one that you pick out the most in Eros Flame. There is also Kinoto in here, which is very prominent. That works in early on with the orange. That's going to give you a bit of that slightly bitter green kind of nuance working in with the citrus. And there is rosemary in here. Now I know I mentioned that a bunch in the original review. There is rosemary in here. Not quite as much as I would have made it out to be originally. Kind of got carried away with that a little bit, but it is in here. It lends a little bit of a camphorous green touch, so it is perceptible. You can pick it up, but it's not as prominent to me as the Kinoto and the citrus in the opening of the fragrance. There's also a little touch of pepper in here off the top, but not a whole lot. It's got kind of a slightly spicy feeling to it underneath the green notes and the citrus, and kind of even underneath the vanilla really in the opening of the fragrance, but it's never really strong to me. So while the pepper is here and it does give you a little spicy touch, it's not a big pop of spice. Pretty early on, this one starts to seg into sweet, fresh, aromatic territory. So you're gonna get geranium, you're gonna get the Kinoto, the rosemary, the citrus starts to die away a little bit. Some of the residual sweetness from the citrus is still there, but absolutely no juiciness, not really any of that true citrus pop, just touch of the sweetness. And then tonka and vanilla in the mid. So through that mid, those are the main things I pick up. The spice from the opening, pretty much gone off my skin once you go through the mid. And then in the dry down, Eros Flame for me centers around the vanilla and the tonka with a really light woody backbone. So there's sandalwood and there's cedar, and I can pick each of those up. They work both a little bit differently, and neither one of them is all that heavy. The cedar gives the fragrance what smells like a slight touch of spice, and it's not the black pepper from earlier, but that's how the cedar comes across for me. My wife actually thought there was a little bit of incense in here in the dry down, so it's most likely that cedar note that she was picking up, but she thought there might be a touch of incense. That's the first thing that popped into her mind. And then the sandalwood is going to give you a little bit of creaminess that works in with the vanilla and tonka. And the vanilla in the dry down of Eros Flame is just very, very slightly powdery as well. Not too heavy. It's not anything that's going to turn people off. I wouldn't even really worry about it. It's just a small touch of powder. Okay, now comparing the original to Eros Flame, which one do I think is better overall? When I originally reviewed this one, I said that I would just stick with Eros over Eros Flame. At the time, Eros was much more affordable because you could easily find it at discounters. Eros Flame still wasn't really readily available. And I felt like Eros Flame wasn't quite different enough to warrant a purchase. And also, again, I was hung up on the Rosemary. So have I changed my viewpoints, my thoughts on that? Yeah, actually I have. I find the opening in Eros Flame more interesting than the opening in the original Eros. So that's a positive. I like the green nuances in here. I like that little hint of bitterness that you get. I like how that plays along with the sweetness in the fragrance and has kind of a contrast in the opening of the scent. I dig that. Through the mid, it's not quite as interesting for me, and the dry down as well. It does have, again, a strong similarity to Eros, but overall, I actually now prefer Eros Flame to Eros. I think it's slightly more versatile. It is, again, very much in the same style of fragrance as Eros, so if you don't like Eros, you might not like this one. It is ultimately a loud, sweet, what some people might say is a synthetic type of fragrance. It's going to be a more youthful kind of fragrance, and some people really don't like that. But what this does, it does really well. The projection is really strong for the first 2.5 to 3 hours. So it's gonna project pretty hard. You don't need to go heavy with this one. And then your longevity, 10 plus hours without issue, really closer to 12 plus hours. So as far as performance goes, this one is well above average, all the way across the board. As I mentioned before, the versatility for Eros Flame, in my opinion, a little bit better than the original Eros. Those contrasts in the opening, the bitter green versus the sweetness, works out well. It helps offset a little bit of that potential aggressiveness in the opening. And then through the mid, where it's fresh, aromatic, sweet, it's hard for most people to dislike that. In terms of seasons, for me, it's gonna be better in spring and fall. So your more neutral weather kind of situations where it's not too cold, not too hot. That being said, this does have the performance that it can work in the cold. So if you want to wear this in the wintertime, knock yourself out. It'll work. If you want to wear this in the summertime, it can work then too, because this isn't too rich. You know, it's not that style of fragrance. It's just sweet and strong. But I would dial it back in the summer. I wouldn't go heavy. This is not the type of fragrance, if it's 90 plus degrees outside, that I think is gonna work very well if you spray yourself 8, 9, 10 times. In my opinion, that's a mistake. With this one in the summertime, probably, 2, 3 sprays, you'd be good to go. But if you are a serial oversprayer, feel free to not listen to me and go buck wild. You do your thing. As far as whether you would wear this during daytime or nighttime, kind of splits the difference. You could wear this in either one, day or night. It has the potential for being a good club sort of fragrance, night out sort of fragrance. You could potentially wear this as a date scent also, but again, I caution you, don't go too heavy in situations like that. If you already own Versace Eros, Versace Eros Flame could be redundant because again, there are those similarities. You immediately can pick up the original Eros when you spray this one on. It's not going to be a huge, enormous departure from the original. But if you love the original and you want something that's like that but with a little twist, check this one out. If you don't own Eros and you don't own Eros Flame, if possible, sample first, like always. But between the two, if I could keep only one as of this video, it would be this one. So it's safe to say Versace Eros Flame has grown on me over time. I like this much more now than I did originally. And for what it's worth, it is a compliment pulling sort of fragrance as well. Actually, my wife in the opening says that this is, to her, a blue kind of fragrance. And by that she means compliment pulling, mass appealing. And it is that for the most part the whole way through. All right guys, that's gonna do it for me with Versace Eros Flame. I've warmed up to it a little bit. Haha, flame, warmed up. So hilarious. I'm joking, that was really cringy. But I do like it more than I used to. If you've smelled this fragrance, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. As always, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Thanks for all your support. Stay safe out there. See you guys tomorrow with another fragrance video.